Happy New Year! Happy New Year to all of my friends and followers in my Shamoita Rupkathara in my YouTube channel. Also, I extend my gratitude and thanks to all those subscribers and friends who are with me, who were with me and still with me. And also, I am thankful to those who are going to join me and who will join me. So I'm really happy that I can tell you that I am going to start a little segment which will subsequently merge with Robabani. This segment. Now this segment is solely I'm trying to prepare in English because I remember a little request which I received when first I created this channel in the year of 2011. 11 then I met in the platform in Facebook, actually, a little friend and from Thailand, and eventually I became her Ineng means elder sister, and she became I became her ate means elder sister, and she became my Ineng, that means which means little sister. So she requested me, Ate, I can listen, I can hear your voice, but as it is in your language I couldn't make any sense out of it. So can you please upload something which in a kind of language which I can understand? So at that time I was very shy. I just tried, though that trial was like for maybe 3 or 4 years after I tried, and then she requested me again, and then I got distracted. And right now, as I got inspired by other YouTubers and other story readers or storytellers. I must thank them also because of their um, enormous effort, because of their beautiful storytelling, beautiful story reading or acting. It inspired me to revive my this channel, actually. So thank you all. Now this segment is solely I am trying to prepare in English for her only. Now today is 1st January, right? So 1st January, what it signifies is, it signifies a new beginning. Other than that, a very few people who knew Ram Sri Ramkrishna Parmhansa Hansdev, they knew that the guru of Swami Vivekananda, the man, the young, the science, the symbol of young India. So India, the Vivekananda, Swami Vivekananda ji, his guru was Sri Ramkrishna Paramahansa. So just before his demise, when he thought that he is going to leave this earthly world, one day, that was also a 1st January. At that day, he became the kalpataru. What it means? Kalpataru means, taru means tree, and kalpataru means the tree from the vriksha, from whom if you wish for something, it will grant you with that. So he became kalpataru for his disciples, for his followers, and from that day only, on each and every year on the 1st January, he becomes the kalpataru. He becomes the giver to everyone. Once he has mentioned that it is very tough to it is very tough to be mother, because mother doesn't discriminate between between his children, and whether he is good or bad, she always takes him or her back into her lap. So but as a father, he judges, actually he judges. So at this day he became the kalpataru. So it make me feel like he became single. He became the solely one with her divine mother. So for that reason he he became kalpataru. So when I decided to prepare this video, I thought that I am going to read something out of the last part of his life. Then all of a sudden I can remember, actually I remembered that, and no, it is the beginning, it is the new beginning. So I must start a segment where I will start to read his life. So life of Sri Ramakrishna, it is compiled from various authenticated sources, and it is being published by Advaita Ashrama. It is a part of Sri Ramakrishna Mott and Mission. So I'm going to the first part. First, I thought that I'm going to start with the birth, the beginning. But then I thought why he particularly he chose, why he was born in a particular family. What was the difference in that family? We must remember, we must know, we must understand that that much sheer strength, that much sheer devotion, and only comes when the bed, when the land is that much fertile and full of piousness, full of divinity and prayers. So we must know who was his biological ancestors. So I will start with the ancestry. It is a 10-page long chapter. So it maybe today we will read for 2 or 3 pages, and then we will go for the next in a series basis. So let's start. Life of Sri Ramakrishna. This is the silhouette which makes everything to us, which makes us remember that yes, he is there and he is going to protect us from our sins, from our fears, and he will make us the strongest and the softest and the soft hearted person, the strongest person at will and the softest person at our heart, which is going to bleed for a single insect also. So let's start with the ancestry. First I must apologize for my bad pronunciation. Also you will see or you will hear some hinders my bad pronunciation in English, so please forgive me. So let's start. Ancestry. In the middle of the 18th century, there lived in the village of Derepur, district of Hooghly, Bengal, a Brahmin family of which Manikram Chattopadhyay, familiarly known as Chatterjee, was the head. The Chatterjees were God-fearing people and observed all the Hindu religious rites with the utmost exact, exactitude and devotion. They had lived there for several generations and were respected by the villagers for their honesty, piety, and straightforwardness. Sri Ramchandra was the tutelary deity of the family, as indicated by the use of Rama in naming most of its members. The Chatterjee family lived the typical Brahmin life of olden times, never deviating from the dictates of its conscience and always ready to lend a hand of succor to the needy and distressed of the village in times of calamity. Manikram was fairly affluent with nearly 50 acres of land at his disposal, the produce of which, together with some outside income, was sufficient to maintain his family and enabled him to help his poorer neighbors. In course of time, probably in the year 1775, he was blessed with a son whom he called Khudiram. He it was who later became the father of the remarkable being who is the subject of this chronicle. Two other sons and a daughter were born to him, all of whom were reared according to the family traditions. The sons being educated in the village Patshala, after the death of Manikram, the care of the family fell upon the shoulders of young Khudiram. His qualifications eminently fitted him for this task of a kindly nature with a strong sense of justice, unswearing honesty, even to a point detrimental to his own interest and intensely devotional, he proved himself equal to the trust reposed in him not only by his father but by the divine mother, who was soon to give one of her elect into his care. He was more than blessed in his life partner, Srimati Chandramani, or Chandra, as she was called by the family. In addition to her faith in her husband and all his judgments, no matter what reaction they might have on her own life, she had a character of great simplicity and sweetness, intense faith in and love for God and humanity. So universal was the latter that she was called the mother of her little community. No one was ever turned away disappointed from her door. The women of the village came to her in their trials and perplexities, knowing they would receive unselfish aid and advice. Such were the unusual characteristics of the two who were chosen to be the custodians and guides of the early years of one of the greatest sages whose presence ever blessed this earth. 9 years after the birth of his first son, Ramkumar, Khudiram was visited in 1814 by a sudden stroke of misfortune. Ramchandra Ray, the zamindar of the village, was a most tyrannical landlord, and the villagers were all afraid of him. One of them was guilty of some indiscretion, and Ramananda, to show his displeasure, entered suit on false charges and called upon Khudiram to give evidence in his favor. Khudiram not only had a horror of courts and avoided them whenever possible, but he knew as well that this was a concocted case. If he acceded to the request, he would do violence to his uh, conscience, perhaps for the first time in his life. If he declined, he would incur the anger of Ramananda. After a severe struggle with himself, he decided to refuse to lend his support. Ramananda was very angry at Khudiram's audacity and decided to teach him a lesson. So he brought false charges against him too, and Khudiram lost his ancestral property, including the huts which had so long sheltered him and his family. Overwhelming as was his misfortune, he did not lose faith in the Lord Ramachandra, but bowed his head before he inscrutable dispensation his inscrutable dispensation, and there was nothing for him to do but to leave Derepur. And as his two brothers took refuge with their respective father-in-law, he felt free to accept the invitation of his friend Shukhal. This is actually Shuklal Goswami of Kamarpukur, to make his new home there. And of the once prosperous and prominent Chatterjee family of Derepur, there remained after his departure only the Shiva temple with its large tank and the affection and gratitude of the villagers. The village of Kamarpukur is situated in the northwestern promontory of the Hooghly district, adjacent to Bankura and Minnapur. The villages of Bengal 50 years ago presented quite a different aspect from that of today. Instead of desolate villages with inhabitants worn out by disease and starvation, as may be seen since the invasion of malaria in 1867, healthy men and women passed their days in joyous affluence. Kamarpukur was no exception to the rule. The village landlords, descendants of a line of spiritual preceptors to the Maharajas of Burdwan, lived in that village, contributing to a great extent to its prosperity. Besides, it was situated on the road to the holy place of Puri or Jagannath. The villagers were mostly agriculturists and craftsmen. The village was famous for certain sweets and ebony pipes used in hubble bubbles. There was also a thriving handloom industry, the products of which were sold even in the markets of Calcutta. Various religious festivals throughout the year added to the serene and innocent merriment of the village folks. Sri Dharma, the presiding deity of the village, was worshipped specially during the car festival with great fervor. Three or four large tanks, Haldapukur being the Haldarpukur being the most noted, supplied the village with pure water. The flourishing condition of Kamarpukur is still evidenced by the debris of its old buildings and the ruins of great walls and temples. There still survives a large mango grove dedicated to public use by Manik Chandra Banerjee. Manik was the zamindar of a neighboring village, and because of his extensive charities was lovingly called Manik Raja by the villagers. At this time, Shuklal Goswami, a kind-hearted and pious man, was the zamindar of Kamarpukur. The ruins of his brick-built residence and his tomb are still to be seen. He died about the year 1824. His son, owing to adverse circumstances, had to sell the ancestral zamindari to the Laha family of the village, to whom it still belongs. It was at the invitation of this Suklal that Khudiram moved to. It was on the invitation of this Suklal that Khudiram moved to Kamarpukur. Shuklal gave him a portion of his own house consisting of a few huts and settled on him nearly half an acre of very fertile land known as the Lakshmi Jala or Fortune's Meadow for maintenance. Khudiram entered his new house with his wife, his 10-year-old son, and a 4-year-old daughter. In his 39th year, the unjust eviction from his ancestral home and the subsequent welcome and shelter received at Kamarpukur left a profound and indelible impression on his mind. He was utterly disgusted with the world. its hypocrisy, malice, and greed. His love and devotion to God increased a thousandfold, and he learned to lean upon him more and more. The unexpected way in which he found shelter at a time when he was void of hope and nothing but ruin stared him in the face filled his heart with calm resignation to the divine will and a total indifference to all mundane things. He began to devote much of his time to prayer, meditation, and the worship of Sri Ramachandra. Sometimes whole days were passed in this way, for the fertile land of Lakshmi Jala did not make much demand on his time or energy. When the field was ready, Khudiram would transplant a few seedlings with the words "Glory unto Raghuveer," leaving the rest to the laborers. The crops never failed him. There was always enough, even in times of drought or flood, to supply not only the simple needs of the family but to help beggars and strangers as well. At this time, Khudiram came strangely into possession of the emblem of his tutelary deity Raghuveer. One day, while returning home from a neighboring village where he had gone on business, he felt tired and sat down under a tree by the side of a paddy field, fell asleep, and dreamed a wonderful dream. His beloved Ishta, Sri Ramachandra, in a complexion like a young blade of grass, appeared as a boy and said, "Unnoticed and uncared for, I have been starving here for many days. Take me to your home. I am eager to accept your offerings." Beside himself with joy, Khudiram replied, "My lord, I am devoid of devotion and too poor to think of installing thee in my heart. If I fail to show thee proper respect, I shall suffer the agony of hell." The boy Ramchandra reassured him and said, "Do not be afraid. I shall be satisfied. I shall be satisfied with your service in spite of its defects." Khudiram wept at this unsolicited mercy of the Lord and awake from his sleep. As he looked about, he saw the place pointed out in his dream. With trembling limbs, he slowly moved to the spot, and to his amazement and joy found a salagram or round stone emblem of Vishnu sheltered under the hood of a venomous snake. He stretched forth his hands to take it, and the snake disappeared. Calling aloud the name of Raghuveer, he clasped it to his breast. Examination showed the emblem to be of the type called Raghuveer. He took it home and regarded it as his own Ishta. Khudiram soon attracted the notice and gained the respect of his neighbors at Kamarpukur for his intense devotion and unsullied purity. They shout his blessings, believing in their potency, and none would touch the water of the Haldar Pukur when he was bathing there. At this time, he made an appreciable advance in spirituality, keeping his mind on a plane of consciousness far above the world of sense pleasure. He began to have vision. Sometimes, while gathering flowers for his daily worship, he saw the goddess Sitala going before him in the form of an 8-year-old girl with a radiant smile and bedecked with various precious ornaments as she helped him to pluck the flowers by bending the branches. At other times, as he sat for meditation, tears of love trickled down his cheeks, and his mind soared far away into higher regions where he found himself in close communication with his beloved deity. Then, and when he uttered the Gayatri mantra, his face and chest became radiant. The impression created by Chandra Devi in the village was equally great. Her kindness soon attracted attention. Beggars found that as long as there was a morsel of food in the house, she would share it. She was indulgent to the demands and importunities of boys and girls, and the village woman came to her for help to solve their difficulties. Thus, though the hearts of Khodiram never smiled in affluence, they were a source of solace to many. Sri Ramakrishna later in life, referring to his parents, said to his disciple and devotees, "My mother was the very embodiment of rectitude and sincerity. She did not know much about the ways of the world, and being innocent of the art of concealment, would say what was in her mind. People loved her greatly for her open heartedness. My father never accepted gifts from the Shudras. He spent much of his time in worship, meditation, and the telling of beads. Every day, while engaged in prayer, as he invoked the goddess Gayatri, his chest swelled and became radiant with a divine glow, and tears rolled down his cheeks. Again, in hours of leisure, when he was not engaged in worship, he would make garlands for Raghuveer. He left his ancestral home to avoid giving false evidence. The villagers respected him as a sage. After 6 years' residence in Kamarpukur, Khudiram married his son and daughter. Ramkumar attained proficiency in the Hindu code in the toll of an adjacent village, and soon was able to relieve to a certain extent his father's family burden. The Chatterjee had become comparatively prosperous. Ramkumar added to the income by giving opinions on disputed points of religious ceremonials, or by assisting in the performance of specific rites. The story that Ramkumar had acquired supernatural power still lives in the village. People looked upon his prophecies as infallible, and related that after his initiation to the worship of the Shakti, the goddess bestowed on him miraculous powers in astrology, and that thenceforward he could tell he could tell whether a patient would live or die. Shivram Chatterjee, Ramkumar's nephew, used to tell a story of his uncle's prophetic power. Ramkumar was in Calcutta on business and went to the Ganges to bathe. A rich man with his family was there also for the same purpose. In pursuance of the custom obtaining in some rich families for the strict maintenance of the Parda system, the wife was taken to the water of the Ganges in a palanquin. From that she was taking her bath. Ramkumar was standing near by and accidentally caught a glimpse of her beautiful face. With a deep sigh, he remarked that the body, which was being so scrupulously kept from public gaze, would be consignated in the presence of all the next would be consigned in the presence of all the next morning to this very Ganges as a lifeless corpse. The husband was greatly astonished, for his wife was for his wife was young and strong. He invited Ramkumar to his home with a view to punishing him should the prophecy prove to be false. But to the surprise and grief of all, the woman died. On another occasion, in the case of his own wife, Ramkumar's vision was prophetic. This young woman, who was endowed with many auspicious marks, seemed to bring with her advent prosperity into the Chatterjee family and was beloved by everyone. But one day Ramkumar gravely told his relatives that though everything appeared propitious, yet she would die at the birth of her first child. When she remained childless, Ramkumar was relieved, but in the year 1849, at the age of 35, she gave birth to a beautiful boy and expired. With Ramkumar looking after the family, Khudiram had more time to his disposal and spent almost the whole day in meditation, worship, and religious discourses. He found that the only harbor of refuge in a distracted world was in continuous devotion to God. There arose in him the desire to go on pilgrimage, for did not the scriptures teach did not the scriptures teach that God revealed himself most in holy places frequented by devotees and sanctified from time immemorial by the presence of sages and anchorite, anchorites. It was probably in the year 1824 that Khudiram started on his long pilgrimage to Rameshwar in South India, a place a place highly venerated by the Hindus. It is associated with the sacred memory of Sri Ramachandra, who on his return from Lanka worshipped the god Shiva there. Khudiram travelled the whole distance of nearly 1500 miles on foot, visiting various holy places. On the way, this pilgrimage lasted about a year. 12 months later, in 1826, his wife Chandra became the mother of a second son, who was named Rameshwar. About 11 years later, Khudiram felt a strong inclination to go on another pilgrimage, this time to Gaya. Though advanced in years, he wished, according to the time honored custom of the Hindus, to redeem the souls of his departed ancestors by the river, by the reverential by the reverential offering of Pinda, the oblation of barley balls at the holy footprint of Lord Vishnu there. In spite of his years, the journey of nearly 200 miles on foot had no terrors for him. Khudiram started for Gaya early in the year 1835 and arrived there in the month of March. So it was the beginning. So today I am going to end this video. First of all, I must beg your pardon that my pronunciation was stumbled over too many times. But as I was reading it for the first time with you, so I beg your mercy for this also. But what we have learned, we don't know, still now we don't know Ramkrishna Parmhansa, but what we have seen that it is a answer, it is something there, it was there in his into his parents, within his parents character, even within his grandfather's or ancestors characters, that they were solely honest people. They were solely honest people, honest and devoted people. I think so. Today in this era, we must cultivate this, at least one positive attribute to our character, which is honesty. We must stick to it. Honesty is really needed. And we have seen that though they are the parents of the chosen one, still they had to suffer a lot, right? Even we have seen the same thing which had happened for every good man, every good woman, every chosen one, and for their parents, because maybe from the suffering it actually cleanses us, it actually bathe our soul. So with the prayer to Lord, to the Almighty, that it must bestow us with the strength so that we can hold upon, we can stick to our honesty in each and every phases of our life. I am going to end this segment today, and thank you for listening, and happy new year again. And I would like to request all of you, kindly subscribe my channel so that it will encourage me to read more and more, so it will purify me, my soul, and it will give me a immense pleasure that I am going to somewhere somehow I'm being chosen to help you in this way. So thank you. And I must say at the last, thank you Ma, thank you Baba.